Buongiorno.
Buongiorno Ben.
Buongiorno Davide. Good to see you. Va bene, amici?
Same. Perfect.
I'm so happy to see you.
Same.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Well, it's a great pleasure.
I'm very honored. I'm a huge fan. I've been following you ever since you're at Panerai, Tudor and Montblanc. Today, you call yourself the design kid. You call yourself the creative alchemist, just a watch designer, a breakthrough innovator. I want to add one more. You're a rock star gentleman.
Thank you very much.
You have this duality of being the perfect gentleman with the bow tie. So I, especially for you, put on bow ties as well today. And you are super casual and creative. And you see that also in your design. So I'm super excited to discuss the evolution of you yourself, of your design process, what you did with the brands, and especially what's next. But before we start, I want to know, what are you wearing today? We're going to do a wrist check.
I'm wearing my most successful design up of today, which is the Black Bay first series with the rose logo and the rotor self-winding smile text block. On NATO strap, with this beautiful NATO strap done in Saint-Étienne in east of France with a traditional weaving machine from the 18th century. Beautiful, beautiful watch. And I also have with me something very, very special, which is a Mercedes Gleitze swimming channel Rolex with the ceramic dial from 1929. So it's a watch that is more than 90 years old, and is a little bit the grandmother of all sport watches and tool watches, because it was the first watch used to swim with in a time where this was really crazy.
Amazing. So the Tudor you're wearing, my brother has the rose with the burgundy lunette. He won't sell it to me, give it to me, or lend it to me. So we are both also crazy about Tudor. I was thinking, what should I wear today? But I actually took one. Although you're known for very retro and vintage inspired, I put on my Pelagos.
This is a beautiful
A little bird told me you had something to do with it.
I fully designed and conceived it, and it's a very nice watch, very technical, more the forward-looking expression of the sportiness of Tudor. And it was very interesting because we launched both of them, the Black Bay and the Pelagos, the same year, 2012. But because the Black Bay rose such a huge wave of success, the Pelagos was remained in the shadow of it for quite a while, and then it started to grow. It's a beautiful watch. It's a lot of quality because it's 500 meter deep with helium valve, completely in titanium bracelet included. It has a folding clasp with a crazy mechanism that auto adjusts exactly while you are diving, with the volume change of your wrist and your swimsuit. So it's a ceramic bezel, luminous material into the ceramic bezel, and all of these for a price which is, I think, below 4,000 now, or just around 4,000, which did not exist in the market. So, and it's very interesting to me, when how you build a brand, you need to, look at the roots and the heritage and the genesis of a brand, and being able of, leveraging that original purpose and original spirit. But then you also need to be able to give a technological, contemporary, and even future-looking expression of it. And the Black Bay and the Pelagos are the perfect example of this nice balance to find.
You said it perfectly. It's so amazing to hear it from the creative force behind this design. For me, also, I also have this duality where I love classic but extreme casual and sporty. I love titanium. I love satin finish. I think this was the first Tudor with a ceramic bezel, but everything ceramic on the industry is polished. You hardly see any satin matte finish. I love that. I love the roulette style date disc.
Yeah.
cream color of the full patina, but it makes it toned down. Although I love the blue with the white as well. Obviously, the left hand, the engraving on the back with this nice retro wink to the military heritage of the watch. The red Pelagos line, which is another wink. And as you said, there is, I believe, no better value out there for somebody seeking a modern tool watch. It's we love it and we do very well with it. So thank you for making it, and we salute you. Davide, we have only 1 hour, and we have a lot of ground to cover. We have a lot of viewers who sent in questions beforehand that couldn't join live. We'll have a lot of live questions, but the format of the show is that we do 7 The Ace List questions. I'm just going to dive in. First question: what watch tool is your favorite and why?
My favorite watch is the 6264 Daytona Paul Newman John Player Special. Both because it's linked to the history of the Daytona and the Paul Newman in particular, which was an incredible future forward-looking watch, not successful at all at its launch. Very, very few quantities. Some lucky people inside the company could purchase it at that time for very low price. And many of them resold it just 2 or 3 years later when the price was 3 or 4 times the retail one. And now I think they really say themselves that they should have kept it for a longer time, because now we are speaking hundreds of thousands of euros or millions, even millions. The case of the John Player Special. I like very much the link with racing. I always cherished and work on this fantastic link between engines and design, movements and habillage for watches. With the livery of the Lotus Formula One car, gold and black, this is just beautiful, so much typical of those years. And the rarity of it. In 18 karat golds, there are around 10 that are known, so it's a little bit of a unicorn. And the warmth of the color is incredible. It's absolutely the simplicity of the design. I mean, it's the perfect expression of love for watches and good design.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was dreaming of becoming a paleontologist, where my grandparents live in South Piedmont. There are a lot of sites where you can find fossils, fossil shell, but I even found a teeth of a kind of prehistoric hippo. So it was really like, I was dreaming of Jurassic Park already at that time. I was reading quite a lot, and I was reading about Carter and the Tutankhamun, tomb discovery and exploration and all of this, and the adventurous part that goes with it, because all these, fossils and archaeological discovery are always in very remote, far away places. Really made me dream like crazy. Perhaps I kept it a little bit because today, people call me the archaeologist for my capacity of going into the archives and picking up rare watches and the one that still, tick with the modern time, with the zeitgeist. So perhaps I'm able now of playing a little bit of that part of my childish dream.
Yeah, it explains also a lot. So it's very interesting. So you're born and raised in Torino, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so you're Italian, but today you're based in Geneva?
Geneva. I live in Geneva since 14 years now. Quite a long time.
Amazing, interesting. And when going from that childhood dream, did you actually become a designer? Were you always sketching, designing?
Listen, I was already sketching when I was 3 years old, 3.5 years old. When I was 6, I was sketching comics. I was sketching comics before I could write properly. So I was making the clouds of the characters in the comics and asking my mother to fill the clouds. Designing, drawing, imagining things is it always been in my chromosomes. It really comes from there, far away. And in primary school I was able of drawing very well, and even teaching to my companion, to my mates how to do it. And it's very funny because when we were 40, we had a dinner together, with the primary school mates, and they still remember my drawings, which is quite crazy.
Funny.
It's quite crazy. 30 years later.
Amazing. And we'll get to that later, but before I forget, because I have so many questions for you. We know your track record a bit in watchmaking. Have you always done watches, or have you designed other stuff before you started in the watch business?
I have designed something else because I have been working in consumer electronics in Paris for Thomson Multimedia. At the time when Wi-Fi was starting, flat screens, home cinema, electronic accessories, and so on. And I was in charge of the strategic design there. So I designed a number of those. And you can imagine at that time we launched the first interactive TV. So a TV screen that had an internet connection built in, with a joint venture with Microsoft, with a wireless keyboard designed by Philip Stark, quite futuristic, all round and with pearl metallic color and so on. But it was too early, the Reuters time for charging one page was still 3 minutes. People were used with the TV and with the remote control, to push a button and have an immediate response. And they were so deceived by the fact of, but it was the idea already of having on your TV, possibility of booking a theater, a restaurant, seeing where the things happening outside. It was so much in advance on its time.
Amazing. All right, interesting. We'll get to that later, though, because I have a feeling you did something with cars as well. So,
I did.
Third question: who is or was your role model, or who are your role models?
I have one which is very dear to my heart, which is Hans Wilsdorf, the founder of Rolex. I had this privilege that I consider to get to know what he did in details and read also some of the book he wrote and so on during my 10 years at Rolex. And I really believe this guy was a total genius. He is the responsible for moving from pocket watches to wristwatches. He's the one that started all this thinking about how to protect a watch from dust, from water, from a vibration, from shocks, and so on. And the swimming channel watch I showed you before is the perfect example of that. He had such an incredible clear purpose in designing the first diving watches and sports watches is exactly. There is this unique video on YouTube where he speaks because they won a prize for actually a jewel female watch, and is the only document where he speaks. I really advise you to see to that, because you can see, even if he was already almost 70, his sparkling eyes, the genius of this guy, his gentleness, despite he was already a big man, speaking in a very open and humble way. And his vision and his approach to product will, have really inspired me and still inspire everything I do.
Interesting, because as we said at the beginning of this series, you're way more than a designer. You think 360, you link design to commerce. At Panerai, you are also responsible for basically branding 360, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So linking that story to your role model, Hans Wilsdorf, who founded both Rolex and Tudor.
Yeah.
Tudor in 1926, He's a pioneer from a marketing perspective as well.
Definitely, with all the ambassadors, the association. When he presented the first diving watch, he put a glass bowl with water with the watch inside and fish, red fish, to show the waterproofness of the watch, which back at that time was absolutely genius and was an absolutely incredible way of demonstrating the feature of the watch itself.
Yeah, and he already had a long-term vision, and still today the foundation we work with the secondary brand of the group, and they have a long-term. They're so different than the industry.
Absolutely, definitely.
It breeds everything in what they do and the way they behave. Linking that story to design, was Hans Wilsdorf also a genius in design, or was it form follows function? Because they were two watches.
But he was a genius also in design because the purpose of those watches is what makes them iconical today. The fact that the design expresses so well the functionality and the purpose of, why the Submariner has become the reference and the image that everyone gets in mind when he thinks about a diving watch. Why the Datejust is the image that gets in everyone's mind when they speak about a solo tempo, is exactly because those design were able to, to shout loud the crystal clear original purpose that was in the mind of the creator of Hans Wilsdorf when he designed it, and the turning bezel, the readability, the luminous material, the waterproofness, the screwed down crown, the protecting device for protect the shocks to the crown, the screwed back of it. I mean, it's everything is perfect, and that's why it's the only company in the world where every single product line now it's an icon, which is absolutely out of this world. Porsche, the 911 is an icon, but the Panamera or the Cayenne are not yet, and they will take some time to become, if they ever will. At Rolex, any single product line is an icon, and thanks to this crystal clear vision, and thanks to the fact that the company is still independent, and they very cleverly really stick to the original vision, thanks to the foundation, and the fact that they don't run, they don't change, they always remain faithful to this original vision.
Interesting, and we'll get back to that later because I want to link that story to the evolution of Tudor. But we're on,
and just to add something, because you spotted it, while it fits so much myself, and why I can do this 360 degree is because my brain structure is a little bit special. So I have the right and left hemisphere, which are completely even. I spotted this thanks to a headhunter in Paris like 20 years ago. Since then, I was a little bit making trials, doing advertising, very creative, and it was working very well. And then doing marketing, very business oriented with Ferrero in foods and snacks and so on. And I was working very well. And I was not understand which was my real direction till when I realized that the fact of being able of doing both together was my characteristic, and was what was allowing me to do special things. And at Tudor, I really, I had an epiphany. I really realized for the first time that I was able of doing both. They gave me, trust to do it, and it was really the secret weapons of Tudor. Because we were designing the watches with already in mind how we would have presenting it with the campaign, with how to create the storytelling. Sometimes the storytelling was informing the design themselves, and we were changing the strap or adding something or playing with colors. And this is really the holistic way of doing design that I'm using today, and that is very different from, you know, someone who sketches and then gives to someone else who produce, and then gives to someone else who has to sell and invent a story. But then when you see the watch and the story, you feel that there is no connection, you know.
I'm a bit all over the place because I need to follow the lines, but it's such an interesting conversation. And you took now with your image of the brain that you showed as a card, for those that are listening to the podcast later on. I'm super intrigued by design as always. And the biggest question also about entrepreneurship, I wrote my thesis at the uni about entrepreneurship, is it nature versus nurture? Can you learn? Can you learn to be a designer? Can you learn to be a marketeer? Can you be creative? So you just said it's imbalance, which is a very rare combo. We know that if we look at statistics and the bell curve, left or right is always stronger. It's hardly in parallel. It is never in sync.
Yeah.
Did you learn one of the two, or did you polish one of the two? And if so, how did you do it? And I'm asking you this question, especially for our young viewers. We have a lot of young followers on our Instagram channels, on YouTube, on our social media, Facebook, etc. And the funny thing is, they love our sessions here with the designers. And there are actually a lot of aspiring creatives in our following. So I asked the question also for them. There's a lot of questions in there. Did you follow me, Davide?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I believe that you can learn, or let's say improve some of your skills, and typically, you know, marketing you can improve, and not only you can improve, but you need to improve. So, for example, I just finished a few days ago a digital marketing strategy course online at INSEAD, and I learned again new things, because now, you know, with Internet of Things, with artificial intelligence, with big data, there are so many new tools and things that come that we always need to learn. Never stop learning. Always keep sometimes in your ear to learn something new. Always. It's fundamental to survive. This said, and in designing the same, you can learn new techniques of building, of materials, of engineering, of sustainable ways, a circular way of creating things, and so on. But for sure, at the beginning, there is a fire that burns in you since when you are very young. I think it's not by chance that the girl that was taking care of me when I was 3 years old immediately spotted that I liked, drawing, and she was doing, the Topolino, the Mickey Mouse cover to design, and she was showing me how to multiply, to make the same but bigger, creating a grid on it and then trying to follow the grid to being able, which at that age was quite already complex for me. Yeah. And I was having so much fun in doing that, and I've been drawing, I've been painting, I've been trying new techniques of painting all my life. So I, participated to small competitions and send my stuff here and there. You need to have these burning fire inside you that drive you, because then it's tough. It's tough to learn and improve, and it's tough to be able of doing something that is strong, that is loud, that has a visibility. So you need the two.
I also do a bit of mentoring and coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of interns, and we have young team members, and not to generalize, but I have to. The younger kids want instant fame. They want instant success. Those that have talent think they're there. Those that don't have talent don't want to work. But I always say, having the talent and passion is only half the work. You need to put in the hours, the miles. I take an example of Tiger Woods. If Tiger Woods sees in his game that something is off 1 millimeter, it takes him 1,000 balls to hit to correct it. Only 1 millimeter. Looking at your work ethic, you're very talented, as we've seen. but I assume you always worked hard. It shows also now you're in a transition phase. You just decided to leave Montblanc. You're in a transition phase. Your official title is the design kid. Shows that you're always a child at heart, which is good.
Absolutely.
But you took an online course, so you never sit back and relax and capitalize on your success, do you?
No, you really need, as you said, to become an expert or a professional at something, you need, I think there is a rule that says that you need, I don't remember how many hours, 10,000, 20,000, something like that, to be able to master something that you do. So definitely that is mandatory, and there are a lot of iterative processes there. So, each time, exactly as when Tiger Woods hits the ball hundreds and hundreds of times, you need to shape, to refine more and more. And in the process, by the way, what is very interesting is also knowing when to stop. When a design is good enough to stop, and when is that limit where if you make more iteration, you just kill or reduce the strength of the design, and when if you make some more iteration, you are still improving it. That it's a very tough one, probably the most tough one. I worked for 3 years with Jérôme Lambert, who is really challenging and really demanding, and someone who really became very strong exactly with this application and incredibly strong work for hours and intensity to get there. And we were always discussing about that. It was always pushing further, and at a certain moment I was saying, that's it, now it's okay. So
Interesting. It's interesting to hear. For our viewers that don't know, Jérôme Lambert was many years the CEO of Gegard Lecoultre, and now for the last few years he's CEO of the whole Richemont group. So definitely a genius in our industry, and very modest as well, like you, Davide. Interesting. So I enjoy this series very much. I am honored to consider your fellow countryman Fabrizio Buonamassa and Frenchman Sylvain Berneron, who Fabrizio is at Bulgari, Sylvain is at Breitling, and all three of you have in common, you sketch non-stop. Whenever you have a spare moment, you sketch, and you guys also do other things, because that opens up your mind, not to be fit in a box. So Fabrizio designs a lot of cars, draws a lot of cars. Sylvain does a lot of motorbikes, but I think you do too, don't you?
Yes, I do. I love cars. I was born in Torino, next to Pininfarina, Bertone, Zagato, all the biggest car design out there. I grew up at that time. There was a fantastic motor show in Torino that was as big as the Geneva one, and I visited probably my first one when I was 3 years old on my father's shoulder. I can still remember all the big, presentation of crazy sports car, like the F40 from Ferrari, or the Testarossa, or those crazy 70s and 80s designs. I love vintage cars. During my career, I signed a number of partnerships with car brands and motorbike brands like Porsche, like Ducati, the Goodwood Festival of Speed now with Montblanc, with Laure March, where I was able of getting in touch with crazy car collectors and builders and refurbisher and mechanics, and it's a fantastic world of passion.
Amazing. Thank you. So sorry for the sidetrack. Back quickly to our 7 questions. The 4th one. If you could teleport tomorrow, where would you go?
Alaska.
Why?
But since I read Into the Wild, the book that was, by the way, at the origin few years back to the big outdoor trend that is now, and I was really one of the very first one to spot it and to leverage it in watch designs.
Yeah, which you did as well.
Exactly, and that. Thank you. And that for me Alaska became, has always been, but with all these stories of sledges, dog sledges, and exploration and da. But it became really a kind of obsession for me, and I am also a fly fisherman since I'm really a kid. I probably went the first time fishing with my father and grandfather when I was 3.5, something like that, 4. Last year I turned 50, and I had the plan to go with my brother to Alaska 2 weeks to really make a full adventure. Unfortunately, COVID killed my project, and at the end we moved to Iceland, which is anyway fantastic. But yes, the amount of wilderness that there is there, the amount of wildlife, this idea of cabin in the woods. I mean, to me, it's really the place to be, and the place I will. The next one on my bucket list, definitely, and so much inspiring, by the way.
Amazing. So you mentioned already a book that inspired you. What book are you currently reading? And I see a lot of books behind you, so yeah. I guess you read a lot.
I read a lot, and unfortunately, I purchase so much more than I read, so I'm always running behind. But I'm reading a very nice book from Sylvain Tesson, the explorer, who is called L'énergie vagabonde. I don't know how you could translate
the vagabond energy.
Exactly, which is fantastic. And I'm rereading a crazy book by Pete From, which is called Indian Creek. If you like a little bit adventure, that's one to read. And he is not far from Alaska in the States.
Nice. I really see a red thread. You're archaeologist, the past, the wilderness,
adventure. I cabin in the woods. I'm working on my own one since a while. It's my big dream.
Amazing. So you already gave a hint on your Instagram, I think yesterday or 2 days ago.
Yes.
But we ask all our guests what we think is the color for the next year. So what do you think 2022 is going to be the color?
But the color of this year is very easy. We have seen in Watches and Wonders, there is green everywhere. And I launched green back in 2017 at Montblanc with the only watch model in bronze with green shaded degradé dial. So I smelt it quite in advance. I did not launch. I brought back pink salmon, which is a beautiful color on the Heritage product line, and now is everywhere. Probably it could boom next year, pink salmon. But the color that I smell now as the next one to come, is my preferred color by far, which is yellow.
Interesting.
That's a tough one. You need to be a little bit bold and confident in yourself.
Yeah, I love that monopoussoir. Talking about yellow, one of my favorite Tudor models, which is I think one of the most underrated one, and unfortunately has been discontinued, and we just managed to obtain the last 2 ones, is the North Black.
Yes.
You're in front?
That one would have been a fantastic one with a yellow dial and black numerals. That one would have really killed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic design that I did from the Ranger 2 from Tudor, with this very tool watch design and integrated bracelet. Far in advance to the trend of integrated bracelet that is coming now. So yeah, I hope they will bring it back because
now it's discontinued.
The bracelet and the case is fantastic.
Yeah. So this is the image Dallas pulled up from your website. Definitely check it out. TheDesignKit.ch for Switzerland. I utterly love this watch because, first of all, first manufacture movement, first power reserve, and only one.
Yeah.
I love the shape of the case, integrated bracelet. Yellow. The power reserve is done in a creative way. So those that are on the fence to grab one, run to your dealer, get it, because we're sold out. We just managed to get the last 2 for collectors. But I think that's a future icon, and I think it's undervalued because it's modern, and there's a lot of retro and also modern things now in Tudor, but I really love that piece. So, and it's funny to hear that you love yellow so much, because that makes sense now.
Exactly.
Last question.
Yes.
Have you been to Amsterdam? And if so, what's your favorite memory?
I have been a long time ago, but several times. The nicest memory is walking along the channels in fall with the beautiful color of the leaves and all the reflection on the channels. Absolutely fantastic. The second thing is by the Van Gogh Museum. I love painting, and I adore Van Gogh and the Impressionism, and I was really in ecstasy for all the visit. And the third one is modern architecture. There are fantastic buildings by the museum, Van Gogh itself, but so many others. I can't pronounce it properly, but the Stedelijk Museum also, fantastic modern architecture.
Very well.
Exactly.
It's a weird name. Stedelijk Museum is the modern arts museum, but Stedelijk means in Dutch urban, so it's a very stupid name, but it's the equivalent, the Amsterdam equivalent of the MoMA in New York.
Exactly.
Very interesting. So thank you so much. These were the 7 questions. You just said something that really intrigued me in you. And I said at the beginning, the duality of, I now know why you love retro and vintage so much. So do I, and so do many collectors. But you have almost an equal passion for modernity. We heard that in watches. We've seen it in watches. The cars you mentioned, you have the real vintage Ferraris, but the F40 and stuff were very modern. I'm curious what you think of the newest Lambos. And in architecture, what do you do with this duality? That's my question, actually. I'm shaping my question in my head. So how do you give that form in your work?
Thank you for the question, because it's a very clever and sharp one. It allows me to speak of how I work. This to me is the key of good design, and what really captured my attention and my energy and passion during, I would say, last 20 years is the capacity or the ability of watches to stand time and to go through time. And the timeless dimension of design, why certain design are timeless and other are obsolete after 2 years, and why, which are the peculiar characteristics that make out of those design something different, and unfortunately today everyone speaks icons and iconic as if it was a simple recipe to cook, but there are very few icons. I think the Black Bay definitely has become a huge icon in the last 10 years in watchmaking. I think the Geosphere 1858 is also potentially a watch that could become an icon for Montblanc, the face of Montblanc. There are really few products that can stand so strongly the test of time. And I really applied a lot of time in thinking about what makes an icon, which are the aesthetic, emotional, historical reason and references that allow something to become, and in going very deep into this analysis, I discovered that there is a little bit like cooking, and I'm Italian, so I grew up looking at my grandmother, mother cooking. And then today I cook myself, and this, I speak about alchemy because that's exactly what it is. When you ask your grandma, how you did this fantastic thing, she is absolutely incapable of giving you a proper recipe because it's all about feelings. Quantities she doesn't know is a pinch of this and a little bit of that, and as much you need for that other. But the result is absolutely outstanding, out of this world. And design is exactly like this, and how how to revamp a product that had been successful in the past, how to give it a new spin, and how create spins that allow then a product to go through a temporal tunnel to travel. It becomes a travel machine. A watch is a travel machine. By definition, goes through the generations, to quote the Patek campaign, so how you do that? How much? For sure, what I can tell you is you don't do a replica of the old watch. This is nuts. It's completely crazy and stupid approach. That's how to kill the original, how to kill one of the two, how to make 1 + 1 makes 1.
That's a very interesting topic that I want to come back to later. I don't want to interrupt you now.
So for sure you don't do that. What you do is that you need to be able to keep some of the key elements that capture the true and original spirit of a watch, and then integrate them with elements that are more modern, that are more technical, and that are definitely rooted in the time. The first evident element is the size. There is a size that becomes the standard of a certain time. So the size that was the standard in 1954 for the first Submariner, for sure is not the size of a modern stopwatch today, and it was not at all 5 years ago when it was really bigger. Now we are getting a little bit. So the first thing you do is reproportioning it so that the beauty of the original is expressed in a size that fits with what is considered right today. Very difficult one again, but this is very important. And then if 10 years ahead the size goes down again, you need to be able of shrinking that same shape to keep it really rooted into today, into the here and now. For sure, already this first approach is very difficult to do because I've been working for Panerai. Panerai was really cracked the watchmaking scene with 45, 46, 47. The Egiziano was 50 or 51 millimeter when the average was 1 centimeter less. But that was the spirit of adventurous military, masculine diving watch. And I remember already that time because Japan was booming. We were trying to do it smaller. And when you were doing that same watch in 40 mil, you kill the watch, because the beauty of that watch is the empty space that is on the dial, is the balance between empty space and the few toolish sign that you put together and the simplicity of it, So already reproportioning is a hell of a work. And then you need to update it also technically, If you do a replica of a car from the 60s or the 50s, today the safety requirements have evolved. Today the brakes are different. The capacity of braking is different. The power of acceleration, the torque of an engine is so you need to be able of and I have a Morgan, and Morgan was quite a genius in doing that, keeping the original spirit of something that is completely handmade, and of that 1936 look and design with a long nose, very, very low, and the perfect expression of the British Spider, and the sportiness and the freedom of that, but updated with a contemporary engine that, by the way, does not have all the hassle that you have if you take a real vintage car, where every time that you go out, you have a technical issue and you stop somewhere, you need to call someone to bring you over, So, and this quest, this research, as I'm doing it since now 20 years, how how you spot the things that you need to keep, how you spot the one that you need to add. To make an example, in the Black Bay, the fact of having put this small insert in a luxated aluminum that matches the insert of the crown between the crown and the case gives it a very modern, fresh, contemporary spin, and has nothing to do, because it's just decorative, with the original one. But was one of the things that brought it into the contemporary time.
Very interesting.
I stop. If not, I speak for the next 2 hours, and it's too long.
So we have a problem. Questions are pouring in. I knew this would be an amazing talk. I really enjoyed it.
Let's answer to some of the questions. Correct.
Okay. But I want to ask, before I forget, I would love to have you back, because we could fill another hour easily, because I want to discuss what you did at Panerai, what you did at Tudor, what you did at Montblanc. I think we can fill 1 hour for each brand. What you said about retro watches being reissued. And a very interesting discussion is the search of retro, vintage inspired, and replica. I don't mean fake watches. Replica is the brand making a replica of its archive. That's a quest collectors do want. And my dear friend Fred Mendelbaum is helping Breitling doing that. And I think he's doing a terrific job, because we all know you have a design philosophy. A lot of brands just want a copy, but they can't do 2 calibers. I don't know if you know Javier Ligo from Longines. He's doing an amazing job at Longines as well. They're doing crazy stuff, but they have difficulties with the calibers as well, and all brands. So maybe I'll park the questions, and I would love to have you back on the show. Maybe we can deal with them if you are willing.
Yeah.
Okay. So Dala, if you would help me, please, let's indeed go to the viewers' questions, because I know we have some good ones, and we have a lot of collectors watching real time as well. I know there is a bit of a delay on the connection. First question on YouTube is by our friend Rocky. He's a collector. They're a collective called the Watch 4 Crew. He asks, "Hi Davide, what were the main differences you experienced between working for Panerai, Tudor, and Montblanc? And what did you like the most?" Very good questions, Rocky. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the question. I liked all of them because they are all very different. Panerai was a crazy, booming startup at the time, even, with this very unique pedigree and origin coming from instruments. The way in which Panerai was born was a small company working for the army under secrecy. So anything that they were doing was visible and available, and they were really just working as a producer of technical tools for the army. So that very deep origin really beats inside the brand, and that is the secret of that brand. That was, it came into the watch arena, and it was a big splash because it was twice bigger than anything else. So that's the brand that pushed all the market to go bigger in sizes, and that moved the global perception of what was the good size, probably from 40 to 43, which stayed then for quite a long time on sport watches as the average good size. Japan was booming at the time. I visited a lot, and I really love Japan and Japanese culture. And I mean, my aesthetic is also nurtured and informed by, Japanese minimalism, and by, what they call wabi-sabi, this genius way of making very simple design that is almost auto-generated by chance. A very, very interesting point. The company was eclectic, was very energetic. There was a strong reaction by collectors. Everyone was speaking about it. It was very, very nice to be there at that time. Tudor was the same, because when we started, there was just the will of relaunching it, and we started from scratch. But very quickly, the first heritage chrono from 2010 already make really the news at the Basel World Fair and really launch this reinterpretation of vintage. In 2012, the Black Bay made even a bigger one. So it was it was the seminal experience in my career. We really went from zero to what the brand, all the fundamentals in terms of product that the brand is still leveraging today, and it's so much nice to see that it was a very solid, powerful proposition of design that can stand the test of time. I think the Black Bay, there will be a variation of Black Bay in 50 years, and in 50 years, collectors will purchase at auctions models of the Black Bay that were, that are issued today, like the silver one, for example. So, and then, Montblanc was also similar because since when I joined, Montblanc was basically doing classical watches for Asian customers or enterprise customers, and there was this jewel, this gold mine that is Minerva, that was a little bit in the background. And when I came with Jerome, we immediately agreed that we need to push it forward, and we started to integrate Minerva and Montblanc. Very difficult exercise, really putting them together to give to collectors and to watch lovers the best of the two, going in the archives at Villeret, spotting this beautiful military chronograph monopusher for the 30s that have inspired all 1858 product line, getting into all the incredible racing history of Minerva with all the stopwatches and counters for more than 50 years, and at the very deep purpose of timekeeping somewhere, so leveraging it through Time Walker and many of the things that we have done, and then bringing back all this beautiful history of a fantastic brand, and giving and linking to outdoor, which is very much linked with Montblanc, because Montblanc is the name of one of the tallest mountain in Europe. So why not linking it with mountain exploration, with outdoor, with adventure and adventurous feeling? And in this sense, the 1858 perfectly sticks to this world.
Amazing. I have a question. I don't want you to answer. That's for the future episode, but I don't forget. How big was there a chance of Minerva being a standalone brand resurrected within Richemont? Don't answer now.
Okay.
So a mental note to myself for the future episode. 7 minutes left. Dala, should we do one more question? I'm sorry, viewers. Keep them. We're going to do another session, but let's do one more question, and we need to wrap it up. On YouTube, our friend Gerard Nijenbrinks, who works for Fratello Watches, comments or asks, there are watch re-editions, in brackets, models that were long gone and now resurrected. And then there's evolution of a certain watch model. It was never gone. What would have your preference to work on, Davide? Good question, Gerard.
Both of them. Both of them, but I've been at the origin of a vintage re-editions, the good one, the one that really bring something new on top of the original purpose and the true original spirit of the watch. And then there are models that are already iconical, and it's also very interesting to work on that. The refresh of the Rolex Submariner of last year is a good example. How much discussion this shift of 1 millimeter or even not as created is the sign of how delicate and how intense can be the discussion when we touch something that is already successful.
Was it a good move, that 1 millimeter?
I think it was a good move, yes. I don't know if the timing is perfect. Perhaps it could have happened 3 or 4 years before. It would have been even better. but it was a good mood. And anyway, Rolex doesn't care, and that's their strength.
They don't rush. They're not in a hurry.
Exactly.
Everything is evolution.
They have all the time of the world.
Exactly. I see. Very quick last one. Rocky is very enthusiastic, and he actually owns all the brands you design, so he deserves to have another platform. Quick one. For which watch brand, in brackets watch, would you like to design a new watch? Why and how would that look like? Specs question.
This is a $1 million question, and I don't want to put all the brands against me because I quoted another. But I will tell you something. I made a podcast with George Bamford, that is, by the way, on your platform also. Very, very charming and clever and dynamic guy. And we spoke about oddball watches, and we spoke about the IWC Ingenieur and the Engineer. And I would really love to work on a, refresh of the original spirit of the very first one, because I think that the Gerald Genta design was absolutely a masterpiece. But that's an example where too many changes on the back, and then the watch itself has a little bit lost its edge. So that's a good, the kind of projects I would love.
Okay, so this is a bit freaky. Just very quickly, while you're seeing this, what Gerard sent.
Thank you very much, Gerard.
Okay, we hope Christian is listening and the staff in Schaffhausen. If not, we'll send it to them. Davide, I had an amazing time. You're an amazing guy. You're a legend. For those that don't know, you check out his website, thedesignKey.ch. May 6th, we have another amazing guy on the show, Nick English, the co-founder of Bremont Watch Company. His brother Giles was the first ever on the show. I love these brothers. They're amazing guys. We're going to talk about their new facility that they built on Henley-on-Thames. Davide, mille grazie.
Really a pleasure.
I had great fun, and I really hope to welcome you back on the show very quickly and see you in person as soon as it's able for us to fly again.
With great pleasure.
See you soon, my friend.
See you soon, all. Stay safe.
Ciao.